guys, my name's Andy Heath, and today we're going to be installing CentOS 7. Um, this is going to be a playlist of tutorials and introduction into the Linux operating system for those looking to get into the world of Linux. CentOS is just a personal preference of mine, so we're going to jump right in and install CentOS. As you can see on this menu, we have three options. Install CentOS 7, test the media, then install it, and troubleshoot. I'm just going to go with install since this is a fresh image, or fresh machine, sorry. Okay, right now all it's doing is reading the media, all that information. Welcome to CentOS 7. It's just checking everything. The OKs mean everything's going the way it needs to be going. Alright, starting the installer. Give it a second. It's checking for some arguments that aren't there, which we'll cover in another lesson. Just FYI, I am doing this in a VM VirtualBox environment just so I can actually capture this fairly easy. Sorry for the scaling. VirtualBox likes to jump around the sizes of VMs, so I'm trying to get that centered. And once I get it centered, it'll go pretty well. Alright, so from this page, you see we get to choose our own language. Some will choose English and US English, and you can choose different Englishes. All that good stuff. So I hit continue. Give it a second. Alright, so here's the installation summary page. Here you can click on date and time, choose all your different time zones, or even set it up yourself. You can even turn on network time, which I'm going to try to do here in a second. So it won't even let me do that. But you can use different NTPs, or if you're in a enterprise environment, you can set up your own NTP to point to it to all the things are all the times are the same. Since we're just using this for personal reasons, I'm just going to leave it at New York. Keyboard, you can choose different keyboards, or you can even test the layout of your keyboard. I already have mine set. Same thing with language. You can choose all the different languages you want to install. DLD above. I'm just going to keep it at English. Security profiles. This is where you can set different things as far as securities, permissions within the system. I'm just going to leave them on the default as none. No software selected. Under software here, this is where you can actually tell it, okay, auto detect installation media device SR0, which is the CD drive, or you can actually have it, if I click on, let's see if it'll let me do it. Well, let me do it here. You need to configure network. Okay, so 1 second. So if I come down here at the bottom, let me turn on my network real quick. Gives me an IP address, subnet mask, DNS, and default route. I'm going to change the host name. This is where you can change the host name before you install. I'm just going to call it test box. And if you hit configure right here, you can do general stuff, device, clone MAC address, MTUs, IP or 802.11 security, DCB, IPv4 and IPv6 settings. I'm not going to mess with those because, like I said, it's a virtual box, nothing to worry about. So we're going to hit done there. And we're going to go back up here to software. So back down here, this is where you can actually specify, excuse me, this is where you can specify URLs to actually download the ISO from. So what it'll do is it'll go out to the internet. There's an ISO sitting there with all the information, and it'll pull it across your network. This also works very well, like say if you have an NFS share or something of that nature. I'll show you the different options. We have HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, and NFS. You can actually create your own NFS share and have the ISO on that, and instead of having to take the CD and put it in every machine, install, wait, pull it out, you can just pop the CD in, get to this screen, point it to your NFS, FTP, whatever. It pulls the ISO information, and you're installing multiple machines across the network at one time. But since I don't have all that set up, I'm just going to do a source CDR0, the CD drive for me. Then over here is the software selection. This is where you can actually set up what kind of server you want, or just keep it minimal basic functionality. For this demonstration, I'm going to do server with GUI, but for the purpose of this video, like if I did a basic web server, I could come in here under the add-ons for selected environment and click on, say, PHP support, maybe some Python, and also what's another good one? Java. I know that where I work, that's what they use sometimes, and also MariaDB client for the back end, or for the front end for a database. So I mean, you can come in here and select all these different things. Sorry, for all that. But for right now, I'm just gonna stick with server with graphical user interface, and none of these extra stuff. But server for GUI, this allows you to do different servers like email server, FTP, file storage, the NFS, CIFS, SMB, iSCSI, different things. I also have InfiniBand support, load balancing, mainframe, MariaDB, network, print, you name it. Linux can most likely do it. But I'm just going to do a very basic server with graphical user interface and click done. And right now it's checking the CD to make sure it has all the software dependencies required for my selection. If it doesn't, it'll scream at you, but most of the time if you go to the CentOS site and just download the DVD ISO, you have everything you'll ever need. So now I'm going to come in here to the system. This gives you my hard drive. You can automatically configure partition, or I will configure partition later. I would like to make additional space available, or you can even encrypt your data, or you can even add disks. So if you click that, you can search multipath or other SAN devices. Like I said, I don't have any, so we're not going to worry about that. But I'm just going to click this and show you what this does real quick. The manual. So it already has it all kind of set out and everything. So if I actually come here and says, click here to create an automatic scheme. Give it a second, it takes it a minute to work out. But this was telling CentOS to go ahead and show me what it's going to do as far as a partition. So right here, basically, it's giving me 500 megs for the /boot partition. The /root partition, which is just the slash here, is going to have 17.47 gigabytes. And then swap's going to have 2 gigs available. And then that leaves 992.5 kilobits space available afterwards. Swap will come back into, but this is what I would want. It's just a general. This is what it's going to do anyway. So I'm going to say accept changes. Boom. Or you can just come in here, and I'm actually going to go redo this back. Boom. Oh, sorry. I accidentally unchecked it. Select that. Bam. And then what this is actually about... sorry. Give me 2 seconds to get back there. So from here, like if you had multiple hard drives, you can span stuff across them. What I'm going to do actually is just say, hey, automatically configure this hard drive. I'm going to click the next, done. So it's saving. Since there's nothing there, it's just resizing all the partition tables. And then the last thing right here is kdump, enable kdump. Basically all kdump is a kernel crash dumping mechanism. In the event of a system crash, kdump will capture information from your system that can be invaluable to determine the cause of crash. Now kdump does not require a reserved partition of the system. So basically it's the equivalent of, in the Windows world, when you get the blue screen of death, there's an error log somewhere or a crash cache file. That's all this is. Some people turn it off. I used to turn it off. I leave it on just in case of emergencies. I can actually look inside and see, okay, this is what it did. What's what happened. All right, so let's begin the install. So from here, it's installing. You can see it's setting up the environment, and then it's going to go through and take care of all the packages. So it's configuring disk labels on device SATA1, your hard drive. It's creating the file system. The file type, sorry. logical volume manager provisioning on SDA2, those kind of stuff, swap on mapper, those kind of things. But while we're waiting for that, right here you can create your root password and your user creation. So root in the Linux world is the same as administrator on the Windows boxes. So here's where you set the password for him. You hit done. He's got a password. Right now it says no user will be created. Well, when you do the graphical user interface, you actually do have to create a user, so I'm just going to create one and call him test. That's his name. His username is test. And here you can make him administrator or not, which basically means he can run administrative commands. Right now I'm not going to do that, and I'll show you how to set that up later. Require a password for this account. We do want that. And I'm going to set him up a password. Whoop. One of them didn't match. Alright, so something's not matching. 1 second. Cannot type this morning. Okay, now the match. Now what it's saying here is your password you have provided is weak. The password fails the dictionary check. Is based on a dictionary word. You will have to press done twice to confirm. So what I did was I just did password 123 for the password for my test user. And seeing how it's weak is basically saying you are using a weak password. So I'm going to have to click this to basically confirm, yes, that's what I want to do. I'm assuming the risk myself. Or you can come in here to advanced. This is where you can actually set their home directory, user IDs, and group IDs, which we'll get into later. And then group memberships, like we'll get into it later as well. So for right now, we're just going to leave everything as default. Not going to mess around with that. And we're going to hit done. And like I said, hit done again. And right here, you're seeing it's installing all the packages. So once that's done, it'll ask you down here to reboot. Somewhere down over here, it'll ask you to reboot. Once you reboot, it'll ask you to accept the EULA. But for right now, this is going to take a while. So I'm just going to cut the video here and pick it up back in the login screen of our newly built server. So I will see you all in the next video. Have a good afternoon. Bye.